All right, welcome. I hope that in front of you right now you should have your note sheet. It's our first day of Unit 1B, which we're going to call multi-step equations. So this should really transition off of what we've been doing so far with two-step equations. So just a reminder here, what we do to one side, you have to do to the other side in order to keep our scale balanced. So with multi-step equations, you'll see these steps on your note sheet. The first thing we need to do is simplify both sides of the equation. So you'll notice now, instead of just two steps, there will be many more things happening. So for example, we might need to use the distributive property. We might need to combine like terms, so forth. There will be things we need to do before we get to our two-step equation. Then we'll do what we've normally done. We'll use inverse operations to get our variable alone. And then last, of course, we'll check, because we can always check to see if our answers are correct or incorrect in these problems. All right, here's our first problem. First thing I did, drew my railroad tracks. Now I'm going to apologize for my handwriting in this presentation because I am using my mouse pad here, so it's kind of tricky. So to start, our first step said we're used to just seeing one variable, but we see a couple here, which means we need to simplify first, which is our first step. So we'll notice here a 3x and a 4x, this will be combining our like terms. Will give us here 7x. And we still have a minus 3 equals 18. Now if we look at what we took this problem to from here to here, we'll see that 7x minus 3 equals 18 is as simple as a two-step equation. Now we've got two steps left. So as always, doing SADMEP, PEMDAS backwards, we're going to get rid of this minus 3 to start. So we'll add 3 using our inverse operations, which will leave us now with 7x equals 21. And then we want to get x alone, so we've got to get rid of this times 7 by dividing by 7. So we should end up with x equals 3. Now again, we can always plug this back into our equation, and we'll see 3 times 3 should give us 9, plus 4 times 3 is 12, so 21. Take away 3, and we do end up with 18. So we know this problem's correct. Let's try another one. Alright, in this problem, same kind of thing. We see on the left-hand side that we can combine some like terms here. So we have a negative 9x, and we're getting 5 bigger. Careful with this addition. Negative 9 getting 5 bigger will leave us with negative 4x minus 4 equals 16. So again, on the left-hand side, all we did was combine some like terms. Our first step is simplifying. Now we look at our problem, and we notice again we have a two-step equation. So let's get rid of this minus 4 using SADMEP. So we'll add 4. Now we'll see on the left-hand side, all we're left with is negative 4x. And on the right-hand side, we are left with 20. Now we need to get x alone. Again, an error might be we might try and just divide by 4. But we know if we divide by 4 on this side, we would be left with negative x. And we just want a positive x. So we do need to be sure we include this negative here. So 20 divided by negative 4, we'll end up getting here x equals negative 5. Again, plug it in and check. Make sure your answer makes sense. Look at another. Alright, this problem looks a little bit different. We'll notice we can't just get rid of the parentheses here because they're here for a reason. But if we notice here a property that we would use, we have an addition sign inside of our parentheses, and this 2 is attached to our parentheses, which means we need to use the distributive property for this problem. So we'll start with 2 times x, which will give us our 2x. And then plus, we can't forget our 3. There's also a 2 times 3, which will give us 6, equals 10. Now again, as we look at our problem, this looks a lot easier because it's a two-step equation. So we'll take away 6 here using SADMEP, which leaves us with 2x equals 4. We'll divide by 2 here to get x alone, and we'll find that x is equal to 2. Again, if we plug this back in, 2 plus 3 will give us 5 times 2. We end up with 10, so we are good. Here's another distributive property. Now the trick in this one is it's not just a positive 3 going through, it's actually a negative 3. So we have to be careful with our negatives here. So we'll do negative 3 times x to start, which gives us negative 3x. Then we've got negative 3 times a negative 4, which will give us a plus 12 equals 15. Again, now we're back at a two-step equation. So we're going to start by subtracting 12, get rid of that in SADMAP order. Now we've got negative 3x equals 3. Get x alone, we got to get rid of this negative 3 on both sides. And we're left with x equals negative 1. And looks good if we were to check it back up here. Now we're getting to a little bit longer of a problem. So first step, we want to get rid of these parentheses. So again, like we've been doing, we'll start with distributive property. So now we've got 5x minus 10. And we've got this plus 4x on the end here. So we'll see here, we're still not left with a two-step equation, which means we've got to combine some like terms here. We've got 5x's and another 4x, which will give us 9x minus 10 equals 8. Now we notice we've got our problem pretty much simplified, so step 1 is done. Now I've got a two-step equation. So we got to add 10 which gives us 9x equals 18. To get x alone, we'll divide by 9 on both sides, and we'll end up with x equals 2. A few more steps in this problem. Get rid of the parentheses, combine like terms, and then solve as normal. Alright, another similar problem. So let's start on the left-hand side. Again, we've got these parentheses, got to get rid of them. So we'll do distributive. 2 times a negative x will give us negative 2x. 2 times 5 will give us 10. Now we've got a minus 7. And we'll notice on the right-hand side, we've got not just one number, we have 2. We have a 13 take away 16, which will leave us at negative 3. So we're actually simplifying on both sides this time. Now over here, negative 2x stays the same, but we'll notice 10 and 7 are like terms, so we'll do 10 take away 7, which will give us 3. And now we can continue to solve this like a two-step equation. We'll subtract 3 on both sides, which will leave us with negative 2x equals negative 6, because we're getting 3 smaller. We'll end with dividing by negative 2, so we'll have a negative divided by a negative, should give us a positive. Plug this back in, and it should work out. Alright, your last task here is using these notes that we just did together. I'd like you to try the worksheet, solving equations with combining like terms and distribution on one side worksheet. I'd only like you to do the evens. So on this sheet here, you'll notice these problems are going to be very similar to your notes, so use these to help. If you happen to finish all of these problems, I want you to check them on Google Classroom, make sure you did them well, and then with additional time you can work on that Scratch project we started yesterday. Have an awesome weekend, you guys.